noble houses, and their daring retainers advance their agendas in the fantastic city of intrigue and danger called Ilrian. Power politics, Renaissance magic, gunpowder diplomacy, and romantic skullduggery await all retainers seeking power and prestige. We, the talented retainers, embroil ourselves in the exceedingly polite civil war that eternally unfolds in the streets. We risk the ire of the other noble houses, the criminal underworld, and beings stranger still. Our loyalties are challenged as we are torn between duty, the lure of power, and the siren call of our hearts. What will we risk to rise to the top? What will the great game take from us along the way?
So, welcome everybody to Thursday night, Court of Blades, and Sean. Let's just start playing. People have waited long enough.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll do it live. All right. So I want to start with like the title and credits of what is going to be my new favorite like prestige drama, costume drama show. We're gonna basically get the big high crane shot over a vast, beautiful city of white stone and colored tile on a crystal clear deep water bay with all manner of ships and things moving through the harbor. But we're going to take that crane shot and we're going to zoom down, drone shot now, as we kind of make a quick bypass over this enormous cemetery with its crumbling stone monuments of a history, a bygone history that's been here, ages. In through a imposing iron and stone gate, through narrow switchback turns of the twist to the rough part of town, and down, plunging into the canals that kind of run through like the lifeblood of this city. We're going to pull in sharply on one particular black lacquered gondola, parting the waters through the roses, the kind of opulent gardens and pleasure houses and things like that. And we're going to pull in on five people on this gondola, one standing and pulling the gondola dutifully, not reacting to what is happening in the boat behind them. This is Tybalt, one of the gondoliers. Behind them are four, well, who wants to tell me what the first character that we kind of pull in on looks like? Craig, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm. So Godfrey's a handsome man. He is sitting in the back of the gondolier, kind of separated from the other three, but very attentive to everything being spoken, everything being said. He's in his late 40s, looks in his late 30s, is dressed in fine clothes, maybe even inappropriately fine for being in a canal, a gondola. And more than anything, he's sitting back, hand on his chin, and just listening.
Can you give me one thing that like a canny person who inhabited this city might see in that finery that suggests allegiance to the House Corvetto?
No. Because he hides that. Being an eye, it's critical that he is not sanctioned or put on any place. Now, he has a pocket full of trinkets and ways to signify he's with any house that need be, but no. Generally speaking, he doesn't advertise it.
Perfect. Who is just four of where Godfrey is sitting at the stern of the gondola?
I could see that being Tharsis. He's a youngish, maybe mid-20s, very pale of skin, pale of hair, dressed not quite as fancy perhaps as Godfrey, but if you look closely at the clothes he's wearing, while casual, they're rather fine. He is currently in the middle of telling a story about a minstrel that he terrified because he dared to sing a song that was mildly uncomplimentary of House Corvetto.
Nice.
But even while he's telling the story, the whole time his eyes are always up, kind of scanning the banks of the canal as they slide by.
So my question for you is, what about Tharsis, to people who are trained and know the city, would whisper this is someone not to trifle with?
Honestly, he just moves like one of those people that isn't afraid of anything. And there are two types of people who aren't afraid of anything, and one of them is an idiot. And it's pretty clear that Tharsis is the other kind.
Awesome. So as like one of the other gondolas passes by, and it's a raucous party happening on this flat decked barge of a gondola, like there's a duel that is happening. There's maybe a flash of steel and blood in the air. Tharsis shows maybe the most passing interest, or is just...
I mean, his eyes follow it, but he doesn't stop telling his story.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. And what of Tharsis's twin? What does Tristane look like?
So Tristane looks very similar to Tharsis. Obviously, being a twin, he might have a little bit more of an intense stare. At the moment, he's actually sitting behind Theobald. It looks like he's kind of just ignoring the world, but if you're paying attention, you'll notice while Tharsis is watching above, Tristane's watching the water, especially where the pole's going, and making sure it's not bringing anything to the boat that it shouldn't.
The details, taking in nothing but the details, right?
Yes.
Are you armed?
Yes, I have a cup hilt. Well, it's actually a full hilt on my side. He's also that would be on his right side, his left side for cross draw. On his right side, he would have a dagger. He's keeping his hand on the dagger since we're in an enclosed area. Perfect.
My question for Tristane is, if I were to kind of give a glance over, what makes the sword that you're wearing different? What does it say about your style as a Bravo?
So, as I said, it is a full hilt, full coverage hilt. Mm-hmm. So it also looks like it's designed for punching. So coming in close.
Nice.
The crossguards definitely look like they probably have a little bit of wear being used.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, a Bravo about business then, yeah. Not a kept Bravo, not a status symbol, but I do things. Okay, fair enough. And the last of the retainers in the boat, Nestor, tell me a little bit about what we see as you come onto camera.
I think Nestor's got his shoe off, is kind of dragging his foot across the water, and he's wearing a Scolarum school uniform that the students there would wear, but anyone that looks carefully is going to notice it's a little more worn than they'd let him get away with if he was still in the school. There are some holes gathering in some dirty spots, but that have clearly been tried to be fixed with the right kind of thread, but he doesn't really have the skill nor the money to get the thread he needed for that. So it's just the closest facsimile he could pull off.
Awesome. Okay. My question is, what about your attire, about your Scholem robes? Is there anything on there that suggests a specialty? What is your area of study on display?
I think that if you looked at the robes, it would almost look like he had been studying to be a historian or something like that.
Ooh,
because his knack wasn't the kind of thing he wanted to advertise. Mm-hmm. So he had kind of kept it from the teachers there until he got in trouble using it in ways he shouldn't.
Fair enough. Yeah, and that'll get you ousted for sure. So Tybalt is guiding your course through these congested canals. I think that there's a wide, comes almost to like what you would consider an intersection, but instead of entering the intersection, instead with like a very masterful, like this gondolier has been plying these canals for a while. He sets the pole and pivots sharply 90 degrees into what looks like a bare wall, but it, kind of is constructed in such a way that it looks like a bare wall if you're not facing it head on. There's a small declivity, just barely enough for you to kind of plumb your way into these secret hidden chambers beneath the city. And as soon as you are out of view of the passing populace, Tybalt reaches into his gondolier greatcoat and pulls out a black leather folio. And without a word, Tybalt has never spoken a word the entirety of the time that you've known him, passes it over one shoulder to whoever will take it.
Godfrey will grab it.
Okay.
Open it, peek at it, and then hand it right to Tharsis.
You get the word "my wolves," and then nope, this is not for me.
Oh, come on. We know you can read, Godfrey. There's no sense hiding it. And I'll pull it out and read it to the group.
So it is written in a florid hand, the hand of your... I hesitate to use the word patron because patronage within the house is full of, cat's paws and double dealings, and even on a corded, territory where we're all supposed to be pulling toward the same goal. Like there is always another agenda. This is the hand of Niccolo Corvetto, the Earl of Westbrook, the one who has brought you all together as retainers of that great house Corvetto, the sixth house of the Esultare of Ilrian. And it reads, "My wolves, 3 threads to pull at, as always. I give you leave to tug the lead any which way. I trust in your discernment. Thread the first. A safe deposit box at the Bank of Brass and Bone, containing an assortment of baubles enchanted to resemble treasures of the house, has been stolen. Nothing of value is determined to have been lost, but the temerity. Thread the second. Astalia Corvetta Minera plans to marry again. Her father, the ever-patient Leone Minera, desires a thorough vetting of this new prospective beau. Thread the third. There is also the matter of the City Watch. They speak upsetting tales of an invisible, uncatchable perpetrator of masterful thefts from a number of the lesser houses. Baffled, they turn, as ever, to us. Again, I trust your discretion. Go forth, sniff out, and return to me."
Always indecisive. Nesta.
All right.
Nesta. Which of those 3 sound the best to you?
The only one that sounds up to our standards is the matter of the safe deposit box.
So the safe
The
deposit
rest.
box is out. Gentlemen, what shall we do?
Actually, I'm on the side of the little boy in this one. I think that we should really seek to punish anyone who tries to take anything that belongs to the house. I'm really not interested in the social escapades of checking on a prospective groom and documenting his infidelities in great detail. And the City Watch is just tedious.
Tristane, I'm a little unnerved with both Tharsis and Nestor agreeing. I would love your thoughts.
Well, unfortunately, as we cannot ask the Earl, I do kind of wonder if the vetting goes poorly, if part of the reason we are being tasked is with the discouragement of the bow. Because that, I do believe, is a skill set we have.
Well, I think the prince does ask us to use our discretion.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
he
in
might
some
need
cases-
discouraging, depending on what we find.
You two are known for your discretion. Perfect.
And are discouraging.
Oh. I feel
And what is
discouraged
it-
right now, in fact.
And what is it that you want, Godfrey? You clearly have an opinion.
Well,
Never mind, we don't care.
in my mind, once Nestor stops fishing with his big toe, we should rely on the twins. I rely on the twins to decide only because you two tend to be the most visible. So I am good for either. I say we let the twins decide.
I hope you have plenty of time available. He's very stubborn.
Yeah, it's only half as stubborn as you.
Well, I'm older.
Yeah. And slower.
And smarter.
Yeah, that's debatable.
Do they go around? Do they go round and round like that?
Yeah.
Yes. This takes us a few blocks. Folks.
Yeah. I think we're seeing like the history of Ilrian, as we're going through these canals under the city, all the crumbling ruins that were just built on top of, because the entirety of Ilrian is basically built on a big delta, right? And so it just over time sinks, and they just build more Ilrian on top of it. It's great.
Yeah. So Tristane would be okay with doing the safety deposit box as well. I mean,
I just think that's the most relevant to the house's reputation.
Sure.
and the reality is the fact they pointed out nothing major was stolen means that there probably really was something stolen.
That could very well be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a city where the appearance of nonchalance about like a theft could in and of itself be a coup, right? So the Bank and Brass and Bone is a enormous organization. It is where the wealth of the city is safeguarded. Like nobody carries gold or anything so gauche as like money. Everything is notes. It's a very musical city. So it's basically the go-between for any kind of trade between the houses of the Esultare and Ilrian, and anybody who's anybody has their valuables on deposit. The fact that somebody breached their defenses and stole something even that doesn't have much monetary value is already kind of unsettling. So I can totally see that. Yeah. So what's our plan here? Like we should probably do some investigation, gathering information, maybe tap some contacts or something like that. What do we see as we see like the preparation montage here?
Well, my dear friend Ishana is very well informed about many goings on in the city. And I think the first thing I'd like to try and find out, and she would certainly know if anyone does, is if this theft is something that has been made public, if it is known, if it was part of a larger deal, or if it was just something that was specifically targeting one of House Corvetto's coffers.
Sure. Who's crowing about this and like what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excellent. Where does Ishana hang out?
I imagine that she is. Sorry, I have too many windows open here. I'm pulling up my map so I remember what I'm talking about. I imagine she probably operates kind of on the border of the Gilt and the Rose.
Okay.
Because that's where a lot of interesting currents meet and interact, and
absolutely
a lot of words can be said.
It's where Ilrian works and then where they play, right?
Exactly.
So that is an interesting and porous border for news. Okay, so I think that it's in one of the large, open pavilions. There are, small street side cafes here, and Ishana like holds court for anybody who can pay her retainer at one of these little cafes, and it's an easy matter to sidle up to the table, looking dangerous as you do, and settle down. Is she happy to see you?
I think she probably treats me as, a regular, business person, not necessarily happy. I mean, when Tharsis shows up, he's like, "Ma, my dear Ishana," goes in, kiss on both cheeks, the whole thing. And she's probably like, yes, fine, what do you want?
Yeah, I can see
she doesn't dislike me, but it's business.
So she's very much a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. The idea that there is like a professional class of informants is good fiction building. I like that. So as she motions for you to be seated and everything, she folds her hands and leans in and says, "The meter is running. What can I do for you?"
Isn't it always? It's come to my attention that a few things that were stored in the Bank of Brass and Bone went missing recently. And, well, as you can imagine, it's not the sort of thing they would want to call too much attention to, but I'm wondering if your ever-open ears might have heard some indication of who might have been involved in such a thing.
How capable are you of carrying secrets that Ishana can't ferry out?
I would say that Tharsis is very good at keeping secrets that are important to him. He's certainly happy to exchange like for like, but if it's important, he's very good at keeping a lid on things.
Does she know you work for House Corvetta?
Probably.
Okay. So her eyes, it's not even so much her eyes go wide as much as like one delicate eyebrow cocks, right? And she's like, Corvetta's lost something.
Someone has lost something, certainly. Perhaps Corvetta is just interested in finding it.
She carefully schools that eyebrow down. And it's like if you were not very good at what you do, if you were not a very astute hawk, you might have missed a little micro expression because you have her on the back foot just for a second.
Right.
Go ahead and give me a fortune roll there, Tharsis. We'll see what she knows. 2-die fortune roll. She is your ally.
Roll, you say. Very good.
Sean, while we do that, what is the purpose of fortune rolls and how do they work in the system?
Fortune rolls are a manner in which we can, I as a GM can declaim decision making. I could unilaterally say Ishana knows something here or does not know something here. However, this gives me in the Forge in the Dark system a way to make the narrative have a little bit of that kind of interesting randomness. And like any other die roll, we have no but or no and or yes, or we have a little bit of granularity in there. How do we do here?
We did roll a
4 and a
1,
1, so a 4.
4 and a 1. Okay, so yeah, she knows something. It's just maybe not exactly something that is going to be actionable, right? So I think like she folds her hands and she begins to lay out that there is some talk, some idle talk, some chatter that she might be able to run down, but it might take her some time. But she's fairly certain that the Brizzolato, the crime family from the Twist, is involved somehow. They're the only ones who would have that kind of access, you see.
And real quick, Sean and Brian, where is this meeting happening exactly?
This is a street side cafe, kind of on the border between the Gilt, which is kind of the upper crust section of town, and the Roses, which is almost like the pleasure district we found ourselves floating through to begin.
And if it's okay, Tharsis, as the waiter puts down the cafe for you, you look up and recognize a familiar face, and I give you a wink and step away.
Love that.
I'm sure, as experienced as she is, she can hear my eyes roll when that happens. But it's of no matter. And he'll sip it. And he's like, "Too much sugar."
Godfrey, do you do this often?
I trust 2.5 of them more than I probably trust anybody else in the city. But that's not a lot. Right. And I would imagine that the 3 of them are very tolerant of it only because of my capabilities. I would imagine the 3 of them would feel much better if they could trust me more.
And Tharsis, seeing Godfrey there, does that make you feel like safe and secure? Like that there might, if there was anything that you couldn't handle, you have backup? Or do you feel like Godfrey is nursemaiding you? Is he an anchor or is he a shield in this moment?
I mean, I don't know that he's not actively making things worse. Tharsis is definitely the kind of person who doesn't think he needs backup in literally any situation ever. So he's just kind of like, oh God, he's doing his thing again. But it doesn't bother me because I know I can get my job done with or without him.
What about when you see Lucius out of the corner of your eye?
Is he in the cafe? Is he walking down the street?
He's coming directly at you. He's crossing the square here. Like he's caught sight of you and he is coming. Like you have maybe 30 seconds to make a decision as to how you want to handle this.
Okay. I'm just gonna sit back and sip at my cafe. Wait for him to exercise himself away over here.
Can Ishana follow your gaze? Like did she see you look that direction?
I think so. I think she knows enough about me to know that he and I have a history.
She gets up.
Okay. Lovely
leaves.
seeing you again, my dear.
And you as well, and gone. Like you're not even really exactly sure how she lost herself in the crush. And like, that's kind of your stock and trade, right? Like you find people, she will not be found.
This is why I rely on her.
Perfect. Okay. Does Godfrey know that Lucius is a problem?
Godfrey does know, and Godfrey puts himself in Tharsus's line of sight and gives Tharsus, I would hope, to be a somewhat familiar expression, which is invisible if you don't, but here if you need.
Okay. So being that you're sipping the cafe and everything, he comes over and like our scene ends as he slams both hands on the table. Right. Is anybody else going for gathering information while we leave him to twist there for a second?
I was planning on it.
Okay. Tell me what Tristane is doing right now as we kind of like cut scene.
Okay, so Tristane's actually heading down to the twist.
Okay.
To find Blair.
Oh, okay. So you're a fawning noble ally.
Yes. So I'm thinking that Blair is a member of the Blue Devils.
Oh, I love that.
Even though that I'm the bottom of the Asatari, the fact that I'm in the 6th tier, I'm still a higher ranking.
Oh, absolutely. So Blue Devils, for anybody watching, are a street gang in the Twist composed entirely of like bored nobles, usually the lesser house nobles. But Blair has a particular affection for Tristane. So where do we think the Blue Devil hangout is?
So I was thinking probably a tavern.
Okay.
You know, they like to party. I'm figuring that they've found a tavern where they can take a back room, and the tavern owner just kind of closes the door and every so often sends wait staff in there and ignores any weird noises they hear.
Awesome. Yeah, this tavern probably once had a name, but it's been like the sign has been broken and a new one has been hung up. It's called the Brimstone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Blair has them, like all of his Confederates know that you're cool. You can come in.
If not, I'll tell him, hey, I'm here to see Blair.
Okay. Yeah, that'll get you in the door for sure.
Yeah.
So what is Blair doing when you enter the back room?
To be honest, he's probably in the middle of a duel of some form.
I love that.
Because, you know, there's always something going on.
Well, somebody's honor got pricked for certain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like they're engaged in, like they've drawn the circle in the ground and everything. Well, actually, you're the dueling expert here. Like is this an honor duel, or is this like a lethal transgression that is happening here?
More of an honor. I mean,
Okay.
It's almost more like a sparring match type thing. So,
Okay.
you know, I'm picturing more rowdy brothers than
I love
actual.
Yeah, this is just what they do. They get a couple of drinks
Right.
in them, and they're like, "Well, I'll find some reason to
You
start."
know,
it. Yeah, so
King
it's
of the Hill type of thing.
oh, I like that. The idea that this is a duel that's almost like running forever, and as soon as somebody like walks out, like somebody else steps into the circle, and so Blair is in there right now. Does his guard falter when you walk through the door?
I don't think so. He's too focused on the fight at the moment.
So if his guard doesn't falter, I think the other person in the midst of it all, let's call her Lysadra. Lysadra is another tough in the Blue Devils, and she goes for an unwary, an unguarded, and like I'm going to end this thrust, right? Comes in, low under where the guard should be, and Blair looks and parries effortlessly, and just arms open. Tristane, save me from these people.
Of course. So is it my turn in the ring, or shall you allow her to continue?
Oh, please. Lysandra was just leaving, and he taps her on the shoulder.
Great. So I'll loosen up a little bit and draw my blade as I'm entering. Shall we dance?
No, absolutely. I think you know these steps, right? And
Yeah.
it starts off, pirate halves, just effortless. Do most of your conversations go this way?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of these of I figure we don't have normal conversations. It's a conversation while doing something. It may be It may be sparring, it may be drinking, but
Sometimes we dance, and sometimes we fence, and sometimes
exactly. And sometimes we do all three.
Exactly. I love it. So Blair is good, right?
Yeah.
You're better.
Yeah.
Like from the first touch of your blades, like for a fact that like this could be fast or this could be slow, but you're going to win. Absolutely. Okay. That was the feeling I'm getting. So we're basically getting that quick circle shot as you engage and disengage, come around each other's guard, riposte, parry. Blair is perspiring, but at the same time, like just a raucous grin across his face, and like this is the most fun he has, for the week. But halfway through, as like he dodges to one side and the blade comes, just forward of his chest, he's like, "You came here for a reason. And it wasn't to dance with me, Tristan. I'm hurt."
Well, that is true, but one must mix business with pleasure.
Tedious. What can I do for you?
Yeah. So there's a rumor that the Bank of Brass and Bone might not be as secure as it used to be, and I figure if anyone has any knowledge about any goings on there, it's probably going to be, the Blue Devils or the other Dinsians of the Twist. So, do you know if you've heard anything?
I think Blair like has an insouciant smile, right? Like a very, very like, "Oh, you need me," kind of. And at that point, like he does like a low thrust, like trying to tap your foot in that classic like epee.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a little too far forward, right? You're putting yourself a little too far forward, right? He's like, "Do you think I had something to do with it?"
I don't know. And as he goes down, I'll catch his blade in a Quillian lock.
Oh, nice.
And then step in and go, "Did you?"
Go ahead and make me a 2-die fortune roll, please.
Sure. Oops. Okay, so how do I get this to roll?
So if you go down to the bottom,
see it.
done. You got it? Okay, good.
Yeah, I missed the big button that said roll.
All right, double fives.
Double fives. All right. So I think Blair is wounded, right?
Yeah.
Like not physically, because that Quillian lock, you're locked up and pressing against each other, and he puts two hands on the hilt and is pushing back, and he's like, "I'm wounded that you would even think that." He clucks his tongue and is like, "Such sport is much too plain."
Yeah.
No, not I.
Oh,
But I can get you closer.
really?
You're gonna have to do something for me, though.
Well, a bargain for a bargain,
It makes
a favor
Ilrian
for a
go
favor.
round. It makes Ilrian go round.
Yes.
This is going to cause an opening in the Brizzolato structure,
Ah,
and I want it.
I understand.
His name is Compay.
Compay.
If you find Compay, you'll find who has the means to get into the Bank of Brass and Bone and light finger your goodies.
Thank you. And then as I'm disengaging, stepping back, then I'll speak at a higher voice, because I was trying to do that kind of quietly. Go, "I thank you for the dance."
Masterful as ever. But next time, maybe not in front of everyone. Like you could tell, just like sweat, right? Like he's not used to working that hard. He's like, "It's always a pleasure." always a pleasure, but not in front of these.
I understand. You know, the next time I'll try not to leave you quite as wet.
One for the Bravo, right? Like he steps back and dusts his hands. He's like, I'm going for a drink.
I visualize there's literally someone in the corner with a chalkboard that just goes.
There's a running tally, right? Running score. All right. I think we need to talk about Nestor. Like, what is Nestor doing while all of this is unfolding in the twist and in the guilt?
I think Nestor's more interested in what happened at the bank.
Oh,
but I
okay.
don't think he has the knowledge to, like, he could walk right in there, but a bank of that size has knacks of their own. They're going to know that I'm up to some shit. So I think I'm asking Godfrey first, do you know where the security for the bank tend to spend their off time? So I could go there instead and try to plumb the depths there.
Yeah, time is wibbly wobbly here, right? We're doing flashbacks and forwards and things like that.
Yeah, and Nestor, when you come up to him, before you even finish the sentence, there's a card in your hand, and you look at the card, and it says Frankie, who is a contact of mine, a friend of mine. He's a locksmith, and I just say, tell him who you are, tell him who I am, and if he knows anything about the weaknesses there, he'll share them, and tell him he owes me less.
Do you want him to owe you less? Because I can know without him telling.
I want him to think he does.
Awesome.
That's terrifying.
Subtle misdirection, shell game.
Yeah, and I had to talk to the locksmith.
Awesome. This is for Craig. Like, where does Frankie do business?
So Frankie, she does not have one place.
Oh.
And she has a legitimate front where she can be contacted, she can show up, she can secure this, she can monitor that. And then she has secondary channels that she takes advantage of to literally undo everything she's been doing, from the upper echelons. So I think I explained to Nestor where she likes to drink, because unfortunately she is a bit of a drinker. Sure. Nestor, I think I hand you over to the tavern where you normally could find her, and if she's not there, the barkeep will know where she is.
Awesome. Okay. So Nestor, when you approach this bar, like, what does it feel like when you are nearby to somebody else who has the knack?
I think it's that that goosebump feel you get right like the inside of a cave, where as soon as you feel that temperature change,
Sure.
and that moisture, and it just hits you. It feels a little bit like that.
So it's like crossing a gradient, right? Like, so there's like a thermocline feel to it. That's cool. Do you get it often in the city, like just walking around, or is it only when you're around somebody roughly on your level as far as power?
I think Nestor's a little bit of a uncut gem, so it takes someone pretty strong to set off his ability to notice other knacks.
That's fair. That's fair. My final question here, just because I like grilling the knack, because that defines a lot of how magic works in the system, right? My final question here is, like, when that thermocline washes over you, like, does your knack sort of rise as well? Is it almost like a living force within you that like knows its own and is like, ooh, kind of almost turning in that direction? Or is it something that you have like rigid control over?
It wants to, but that's something that I think Nestor is very good at.
Okay.
Is keeping his own down. That's how he managed to stay out of trouble at the Scholarum as long as he did.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. So there is somebody with the knack inside this. Let's call this like taberna, like Kamala's, right? So Kamala's here in the foreign quarter. Is a very well thought of establishment. It's a rooming house, as well as like an eatery, and has a tavern as well. Done in like a big like silk awning in the front, beautiful swing doors, almost like trellised vines in the walls. It looks like you walked into a vineyard in the middle of a city. But the person behind the bar isn't the knack. Nobody sitting at the bar is the knack. What does Frankie look like, Craig? Like if you were describing Frankie to Nestor, how would you describe Frankie?
So, Nestor, when you come into the tavern, you'll go on to find the one person who has the broadest shoulders and who probably scares you the most. But when you see her face, she might be the most beautiful woman you've ever encountered. So I imagine she's big, but not in a heavy way, not in a weightlifter way. Just she has a presence about her. Her shoulders seem broader than they are. She seems taller than she is. It's just an aura that she puts off. And there's a dichotomy there because her facial features are very feminine, very beautiful. And I think it's jarring when someone's following her down one of the walkways and she turns around, it causes someone to pause.
It is a statue given life. Very statuesque, classical, right? And you realize the moment you lock eyes on her exactly who this is, and then you get why Godfrey said that Frankie is just a presence, right? The knack radiates off of her.
I think Nestor does react to that. He kind of almost stumbles back. He's not a very big dude, so it's a noticeable contrast as he approaches.
She is making eye contact with you, like because your knack is doing the same thing to her.
And just real quick, Nestor, I didn't warn you about this because I had no idea.
Perfect.
But yeah, very intense eye contact. And like, she is waiting to see what you are going to do. Like, she's not sure. Like, it almost looks like she's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, she expects trouble.
Peace, my friend. This is, I'm here on an errand from a friend. I think a mutual friend of ours. You know Godfrey. Man of few words, lesser useful words. But he has sent me here and told me that you would be the person who had the information that I seek.
Her eyes were narrowing through the first half of that sentence, and then they went wide, completely startled. Sit.
He sits right away like a schoolboy caught by a teacher.
She, produces another one of these like beautifully turned like wooden mugs from behind the table where she's sitting, and she puts it in front of you and pours this clear liquid into it and says, "Drink."
I think this is a familiar enough ground from the Scalarum that Nestor doesn't hesitate there.
Fair enough. So this is sket. This is a kind of a salted sugar liquor, right? It is not the kindest of the drinks that are on offer here, but even so, like she's like, "You're thinking too loud."
I'm afraid you've surprised me a little bit. I will attempt to pull it back.
That's all I ask. We're being friendly here. We're friends.
We are friends.
Drink.
And Nestor drinks on command.
All right. After you sink the second one, right? Like she's like, "That's better." It was like somebody standing on my chest.
I've never been told I have that effect. But
Scott
I'll take
some kind of trouble.
Oh no. Nothing like
Am
that.
I in some kind of trouble?
Even less so.
She sits back and folds her arms across her chest. And what gives?
What do you know about safe deposit boxes?
Whose?
The Bank of Brass and Bone?
Everybody out. And she projects, right? And like, it's strange because like everybody in this place like turns and is like, all right. And they walk, right? And you feel like the broadcasting of her will, right? And everybody, like, they'll probably come to in like 15, 20 minutes and wonder like, how did I get here? Right? But Frankie just sends them out without another word. And it's like, okay, everybody out. And then she's like, I know enough. Is there... What can you tell me? I know how this works. Godfrey never tells me a damn thing. Are you gonna be like Godfrey? Or are you gonna tell me what I need to know so I can help you?
I think that's just the button to push that Nestor says a lot.
Okay.
Nestor's like, oh, well, Godfrey wouldn't tell you anything? Well, let me tell you.
I love it.
My information is that a box went missing. And they think we're the ones to find it. But to my knowledge, there aren't that many people that could pull off such a thing.
Bingo. Give me a 3-die fortune.
Oh, that was 1.
That's 1d6 plus 3.
If you hit the die 3 times,
There we
roll.
go.
There
Okay.
you go. Nice.
All right, cool. So with the 5 here, we're rolling a lot of like mixed successes, and that makes this game go round, right? So like as the this you spill out the entirety of this, right? You put it all at her disposal. Like she's sucking at her teeth, and she's like leaning in, and she's like digesting everything that you're putting in front of her. And she's like, not only is it infeasible to get past all of the security in the Bank of Brass and Bone and come out with something, but they've got staff knacks, and chief among them is a former professor of the Scholem. Like it's not a dog and pony show knack operation. We're talking about like it's the sage of all things locked. It's Owen. He's their kept knack. But I know somebody who could get through. See, I know Owen's weaknesses. Like he dotes on his students, and there's only one who's got any reason to put one over on the old man. Do you know Owen's former students?
I was about to say, do I guess who this is before she even gets there?
Yeah, you
You
absolutely do. What's the student that was always like the apple of Owen's eye?
I think that's Sarum.
Sarum?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Sarum signed on with the Brizzolato crime family?
I think that was early, and he made a big public showing of shaking that. But it was one of those things that everyone bought into it, but it was one of those things that just never sat right.
Never sat right. Absolutely. So she says Sauron, which means that it's Brizzolato. Apollo's behind this. You mark my words.
That's the worst news I can imagine.
So we go back to the square where Lucius is staring daggers at Tharsis, right? And he
I'm
slams
not
both.
saying.
Go ahead.
I'm not saying it was a good cafe, but I did pay for it, and you've spilled half of it across the tablecloth here. I hope you have a good reason for this.
Answer my question. To my satisfaction, I'll buy you another one, Tharsis.
You haven't asked me a question.
That's true. Like he
Well,
steps
it was
back.
lovely talking to you.
He steps back and he like adjusts his tunic and
Mhm.
like collects himself, and he's like, "Are you going to answer the summons by the watch? Are you going to help us with this, or are you just going to sit here and sip cafe?"
I believe in the legal parlance, this is known as assuming facts, not an evidence. What summons are you talking about?
Tharsis, I'm the picture of professional restraint right now. I need you to understand that when I say
I'll
it.
take your word for that. Sure.
Excellent.
Let's assume
Good.
you are.
I have come here leading with the tongue, not the truncheon. I put out a summons. We're having trouble tracking down there's been a rash of break-ins, of theft, of assault that has been happening in the upper wards, and it is coming down on us. I've put out a requisition for the House Corvetto as our majestic tyrants to delegate some kind of task force, and I know that you're on their payroll.
Oh, that. That didn't really strike me as a summons, more of a polite suggestion. Well, I'm in the middle of something right now, but I'll be happy to help when I can.
You understand that I have to take that back to the captain. That you'll get right on it.
Sure, you should tell him that.
And like Tharsis fumes, right? Like this grizzled, like I'm seeing
Lucius,
like I'm seeing Lucius just grizzled and like an angry street monster, like of a watchman, like scarred and you know, a little beaten down by the world, frankly, right? And like fuming, just fuming. And he stands there. He reaches into a belt pouch and he tosses one of the silver like crocus flowers. The little silver coins embossed with the crocus of the city. And he's like, "For your cafe, shake a damned leg."
What can you tell me about what the problem is?
Would you like to take a walk with me? I'd be happy to extol everything about the particular situation. Do you think that would help?
Well, if you're going to ask me to help with the situation, I sort of need to know what the situation is.
Yes, in broad daylight, shall we? Here in public forum.
I have 5 minutes. And he basically leaves the coin on the table, sort of hops over the little railing fence thing out into the street and says, "Come on, let's go."
Awesome. So, Godfrey, are you going to follow along surreptitiously?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Give me one adjective about the person who is unobtrusively tailing Lucius.
There's only one person possibly is aware of it, and that's Tharsis. And there's times where I'm behind them. There's times when they turn the corner and then I'm there as they pass by. I'm picking up probably 30% of the conversation, but I'm always within one signal from Tharsis away from being there present at any point.
But tell me about the person who's been following Lucius this entire time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Tell me one adjective.
One adjective: small, young.
Small. Now, you're a trained eye. And we can get into what training an eye entails, but it doesn't happen overnight, right? Mm-hmm. You are observant. You are professional, you're surreptitious, and you're hard to notice. This person, this small, young person, is masterful. Like if you were not a trained eye, you wouldn't see this person. Like they vanish. Like there's even times where you have to almost like look out of the corner of your eye to see this person at all. There's one question I have for you. Have you ever encountered a fairy?
Oh no. No. I know tales. people I've trust have talked of them, but I have never encountered a fairy firsthand.
Nestor, tell me one thing that will, like, if you were there and you could see this person who's been following Lucius, what would be the one thing about this person that pegged them as a being of condensed and coalesced magic?
It's
What
a
about-
shadow.
Ooh.
The shadow itself is a bit mischievous and will sometimes act outside of the actual actions of the being.
That's amazing.
That's really good. That's really good. Exactly. That is exactly what's going on. And that's,
Sean, if it's okay, Sean, I would like to be mildly annoyed that I have to follow Tharsis
Mhm.
because I am fascinated by this person and have, like, I want to buy them a drink.
right?
And like I'm enamored by what is happening here, to the point where I don't even care whether they're working for Lucius, they're after Lucius. I don't care what their drives. It's the sheer talent of what I'm watching right now that just gets me giddy.
Are you still enamored when they step through their own shadow and appear on the other side of the street from where you are following Tharsis, and like make eye contact with you, and you see that there is no love at all for anything human, and the sharp needle teeth that they reveal?
I am. It doesn't scare me. I am like, I need to know this. Whatever this is, I need to know what this is.
All of this. This is
This is
magical.
This is stuff I don't know,
Right.
and I like to know.
Awesome.
So if I probably should be frightened, I'm not.
Yeah, good.
Foolishly.
They like that.
Yeah.
Do we want to take our break now?
That's a great idea. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Go for it, Sean.
All right. So when last we left our retainers, we were in a little bit of a situation with maybe a fey creature of some kind, because that is apparently my signature. So Craig, you're making eye contact with this, but Tharsis and Lucius are pulling away from your watchful gaze. Are you willing to let them go to investigate this thing more?
How do I feel about Tharsis's body language?
That's a good question. Tharsis, like Lucius, is laying out the situation that's happening. Apparently, a bunch of lesser houses in the Spindle are, reporting all kinds of intrusions and things that are. And apparently, the captain of the watch is handling the matter personally, because enough badness has come down. Like, you're not doing anything. What are we paying you for? And it's clear that he is not happy to have to come to you hat in hand. You have the upper hand in this situation. Does your body language reflect that?
Well, I mean, Tharsis pretty much always walks like he doesn't have a care in the world. He could be walking through a brigade of city watch while the room is on fire, and he has that sort of walk about him. But Godfrey knows him well enough that it's like, I mean, I'm listening. We're having a conversation. I'm not committing anything. I do not feel like I'm in any danger.
Okay.
So there's that half second. I confirm that, okay, he's fine. And then
it's gone.
The little one's gone?
Gone.
You're such an asshole, Sean. Okay. So I'm going to try
for the jam.
Yeah, I'll try to catch up.
So Lucius is ending the diatribe, and it's clear that Lucius is not at all happy, but is at least feeling heard in this moment, right? As he finishes this laying out the situation, he looks over at you and is trying to judge your overall feeling of this. In this moment, do you think he thinks that you're going to let him twist on this?
I like to think that Tharsis is smarter than Lucius. And I think Tharsis is giving him a very sincere, I understand your problem. I realize this is difficult for you, but I will certainly start making inquiries and let you know as soon as I find anything. And I think Lucius, I probably haven't burned him enough yet that he probably believes me.
When was the last time you let Lucius down? Who got
Honestly,
hurt?
well, I think it was mostly a situation where he was like in a position to arrest me because he knows I have been known to do crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was preparing to arrest me for something, and somehow the rest of the crew managed to arrange an airtight alibi for someplace that I totally wasn't. And I think that's kind of why he holds a grudge against me, because he knows I got away with one.
What did he lose because of that?
Might have been a chance for a promotion. It was probably a pretty big deal, and if he had brought me in, it would have looked really good on his record.
I think he was bucking for lieutenant.
That's entirely possible. Mm-hmm.
Like he was a sergeant of the watch, and he was bucking for lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, now he's back, just a street monster. Like he's no longer got the comfy desk. He is out pounding the pavement.
And Tharsis will probably say, "I understand where you're coming from. I owe you one."
That's the magic word. And Lucius, tugs at his jacket again, and he's like, "Not like last time."
No.
There is a code.
Yes. I thought there was more.
No, like that. That's it. Full stop. There is a code.
Understood.
As a hawk, have you worked with the watch before?
Probably sort of inadvertently. I've noticed some things that weren't really relevant to what I was looking for, so I might tip them off for a thing here or there. But honestly, I'm not especially attached to them.
But there are a lot of hawks that are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he has you confused with them?
He might, and we'll see how long that lasts.
Fair enough.
I feel like if I do burn him again, that bridge is gone forever.
Oh,
yeah. So
Bridge is burnt twice as long.
Do you think he might be also thinking of other hawks in case you do burn him again?
I would be amazed if he wasn't.
Yep. Yeah. So there is a code, and he straightens his jacket, and he's like, "I'm glad that I have your attention," right? And he gives you a crisp salute.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "As you were," and he walks away.
I was back at the cafe, and I turn around and see if I can see Godfrey.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Okay.
Are we okay?
Of course we're okay.
Do we have information?
Oh, we have plenty of information about the other thing. The watch. We'll deal with that later.
The others two should meet us back at the gondola. We might be even running a little late.
Well, let's go then.
Tybalt's been holding the gondola. Like Tybalt isn't a special friend of yours, right?
He's a good man.
Yeah. Okay. I think he's rattled when you arrive. Like he's scanning like the launch, right? Just like slow sweeping searching behavior, right? And like do you all step onto the boat, or is there like a
I mean, as we get close, I feel like we all probably have at least a certain amount of some kind of sign language that we can use to communicate with them. Yeah. So I'll just kind of get, is everything okay?
Yeah, and he signs back. Again, like it's I don't know that everybody here is perfectly fluent in communicating with Tybalt, but Tybalt can get across the ideas, right? And he signs very quickly, like we're being followed.
Okay. So Tharsis will kind of very casually get in the boat and sit back and just sort of be looking around, not anywhere in particular, but to try and see what might be following us.
He points at his eyes, and he, along the edges of the canal is where he's watching, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just to let you know, he has noticed somebody noticing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine we've previously had a spot that we plan to. If someone's following us, a good spot that, when you make that turn, it's hard to continue to follow without exposing yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that nearby?
You can get there. you can get there.
So
I think that's probably where he's heading.
Yeah, and the three of you, real quick, before we launch the gondola, I'm going to turn to the three of you and go, the only thing better than not being followed is knowing you're being followed. Do we want to get rid of them, or do we want to find out who they are?
Well, the second question really determines the answer to the first now, doesn't it?
I mean, I prefer to find out who they are, but at a location advantageous to us.
On my terms, thank you.
And that's fair to say. And quite frankly, we have more pressing matters.
Yes.
And I just kind of give our friend a bit of a squeeze on his shoulder, just to say it's safe. Go.
Okay. And he launches. And Tybalt is many things, but he is not easily rattled. Right. Gondoliers in the city of Ilrian are known for their discretion. And they're known for their bravery, right? Because there are strange things occasionally in the canals by night. And Tybalt is a staunch and stalwart, gondolier. But his eyes roam. Something rattled him.
And knowing the twins are being the twins, I feel comfortable not having my head on a swivel, and I'm going to do something that is very uncharacteristic.
Okay.
I'm going to nuzzle up against Nestor.
Oh.
And I get next to you, Nestor, and I go, talk to me about shadows in your world. I saw a little one who was using the shadows.
I think as soon as you say that, Nestor gives you kind of a stop hand signal that you all are used to using. Just, this is not where to have this conversation. If we're being followed, this is dangerous conversation.
Later?
Yes, but with that knowledge, I think I want to do something else. And I reach into my pack and pull out my ritual equipment.
Okay. Talk to me. What comes out of the pack? What do we see on camera that you are retrieving from the pack?
It's a piece of, right now, this is a piece of chalk and a small bit of mirror.
Okay.
And I'm hastily scribbling some signs on the bottom of the boat. And the idea behind this is that this is a lure to dangerous fairy folk.
Awesome.
That if we're being followed by the fairies, I'd rather have them in front of the four of us than in the shadows away from us.
Sure. Okay. Interesting. So this feels like an action roll.
It does. I think I am very open to a lady's favor on a channel on this.
Channeling here. Okay. I'm going to tell you that before any ladies' favors, channeling here is going to be risky with limited effect. Okay.
So, Sean, for those not familiar with Forged in the Dark, can we walk through this process, right? Because it's very different than than a lot of other role-playing games. So what's about to happen and what's the process?
So an action roll is when we reach for dice to decide how well or if we are able to accomplish an in-game objective. Position and effect are the two levers that we're going to set to say what we're risking by doing this, how much we risk versus how much we stand to gain. Now, there are three positions. There is controlled, where you hold all the cards, know what you're getting into. You have all the angles covered. Risky, where there is a possibility that things can go wrong and that you might lose something. And there is desperate, where things are you're already on the back foot and you're going to be wagering a lot, risking a lot. Now for that, you get effect, which is either it goes all the way down to 0, like whatever you're about to do, you're going to have to expend extraordinary effort to get anything. Limited, where you may not get everything that you want, but you'll get something. Standard, where you'll do the thing that you want to do, and then greater, where things are going to go well, even if we roll a failure here. So as we set these dials, we kind of talk back and forth, the conversation about what we're willing to risk, what we're willing to bring into the fiction to alter where these dials are. And then ladies' favors are on the table right now as well, which mean that I get to offer a complication that will happen no matter how this roll goes, but it's worth extra dice, which you can use to alter position and effect as well. But that's also more advanced theory there.
Yeah, and another lever, right? And for those that are familiar with Blades in the Dark, that's the same as a Devil's Bargain, right? That's this game's version of a Devil's Bargain. So,
Exactly.
All right, so I will step away now.
So we're starting with a risky limited position for a channel, because I think channel is absolutely the right verb for what you're doing here. You're going to be drawing upon the weave, upon your knack. I could totally see that, but you're up against a being or a force that is a little out of your league. So we're going to start limited. Now, as far as ladies' favors, does anybody have a good one? I might have one, but I want to hear at least one other from the table before I advance mine. And you can take either of these or neither of these.
So I'm going to throw this out, throw it away if need be.
Mm-hmm.
I am the target of this thing, regardless of whether Nestor is successful or not. This thing now has 2 targets.
I like that.
Yeah. So I was in the crosshairs, and whether Nestor succeeds or not here, now Nestor
gets its
is
interest.
now Nestor is part of this part of that.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
I'm willing to give an extra die for that. Do you want to hear mine as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, mine is that this little fair folk that Godfrey has locked eyes with is a symptom, not the cause.
I like yours better.
I think I want that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna be
better.
both story very interesting, but also might be the I don't think we want the cause in this, but right now. So I think that's a good one.
Are you going to
I
take
would
favor?
like to request to trade some position for effect.
Okay. How
Because I think
is
we're
what you're
bringing
doing
something
riskier than we've already established in the fiction?
I think I'm pushing more energy than I'm used to.
Okay.
This has Nestor freaked out, and he's really pushing into it in a way that he probably shouldn't.
If you want desperate standard, I'm going to tell you that you are opening yourself to physical harm.
That makes sense.
So another option may be backlash from the creature.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
It does not
so
want
that's
to
the-
be. It does not want to be called. No, I
So
work
what's
in the shadows.
What's the decision, Nathan?
All right. So I'm going to take that lady's favor. We're
Sorry, I
going to
should
go on
celebrate
to
Begins.
desperate standard. And we're going to roll that bad boy.
Remember?
There we go.
Oh,
Six.
nice.
No, I can't hurt you on a 6.
And I'll mark an experience for taking a desperate roll.
And let's talk about that real quick. So, why did you mark experience, Nathan?
So whenever you have a desperate position on a roll, you mark experience at that time.
Whether you succeed or not, right?
In that stat, yes.
Yep. So take 1 experience in your mind stat. And when you fill that bar, you get a dot.
That's so cool.
Spirit, right?
Spirit, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I know things. I wrote this game.
What happens?
Okay, cool. So on a 6 here, it works like you want it to, right? You're calling whatever it is that is lurking in the shadows into the light, right? That's your desire here, right? That's your aim, and that's exactly what happens. Now, do they appear in the boat, or is it just
I
to
think they
strip the
come-
shadow away?
They come jumping out of a shadow, landing in the boat.
Okay.
Just like they weren't there. We see them come out of the shadow, and they don't look happy about it.
No. Oh Lord, no. We're talking like probably 3.5 feet tall. Looks like could be any of, a dozen gutter snipes from the Twist, right? Dressed in clothes that are, serviceable, but probably like maybe 30, 40 years out of date, right? Tattered around the hems and clearly patched and much mended. And immediately upon looking at it, you notice that like that's purely adaptive camouflage. Like this thing does not wear clothes. It's almost like a poorly painted backdrop when it's like called into the light because it's left its shadow behind. Like you can see it's still over there cavorting on like one of the walls, like thumbing its nose at this thing that has been summoned into your boat, and like it looks at you and it's just malice and daggers like coming from its eyes. It's not speaking, like its mouth is moving, but like no words are coming out.
Well, who's this then?
I think I found our tail.
Just spitting like a mad cat that's just been dunked in whitewash, right?
Oh, come now, little one. You have better manners than this.
Does your ward, like the ward that you scribed, it's inviolable, right? It can't leave it.
I hope so.
Right.
But I don't think Nestor knows that. Like, I think that he's this is probably the first time he's actually had to invoke such a ward, but that was something he was taught in school but has not used before.
Okay. Because you have not used it before, what's a drawback of this kind of ward? Like what makes the creature inside difficult to communicate with?
I think that, at least for Nestor, it stops, like, the pain it causes Nestor when he's using it is too much for him to communicate effectively. So even the things I'm saying probably made no sense to the people around me as I tried to spit them out.
Perfect. I was just about to ask, what signs of strain are you showing? Okay, cool. Language is hard when you're holding this power back, right? Because it's like a you ever packed leftovers into a container that was just a slightly too small, but it's not big enough to like dirty another one, right? So you just try and get that lid down on it, and like it'll hold, but the person who opens it is going to have a surprise, right? Like that's what it feels like. It's like you're packing too much leftovers into a container.
I think you could see Nestor like digging his hands into the rail of the ship as he tries to hold this in place.
And
or the gondola, not the ship.
And if the twins are reacting, as I would imagine they would, as soon as a threat pops on the boat, Godfrey's going to stand and put his hands up and say, "This is his world."
So Tharsis is actually, I mean, as is his wont, and I can spend a fine iron nerve if I have to. He kind of is playing it very cool. It's like, oh, cool, there's this guy in our boat, and then he's sort of starting to realize the things that like it doesn't cast a shadow, and the clothes aren't right, and he's starting to, sort of. He's still playing it very cool, but he's sort of sitting up and putting his hand on a stiletto. He's not doing anything yet, but he's being more cautious than he usually is.
I don't think it's a fine iron nerve just yet. Just because like you are acting here, but you're not acting, if you get me, right? Like you are not, if you had to act under duress right now, it might be a fine iron nerve. But right now, I think it's like, oh yeah, I'm unflappable as long as nobody asks me to flap.
Right.
Yeah. Justine, pretty much as soon as he saw the movement, his blade would have been about halfway out of its sheath, and he just kind of froze there and is watching Nestor's body language to see, do I put it back or do I finish drawing?
Yeah. The shadow thing, right? Or the shadowless thing at this point, like mad, just like scratching at the thing for just a second, and then like remembers itself and like very carefully like draws itself up and like almost like going to parade rest, like hands behind the back and like nose in the air and like a soldier on review, right? And like its mouth moves, And again, like the words are hard to parse out. It's like it is missing all of the vowels. It's speaking so fast, right? Nestor, like you get the impression that it is invoking some kind of right. Not like a magical right, but like it is invoking its rights, almost like as a prisoner of war or something like that.
Okay.
Name, rank, and serial number.
Exactly.
Does it look like Nestor can understand it?
I don't know. Can Nestor understand it? Is that how the word works?
I don't think any more than you all can. I think that if I wasn't having to hold this ward, I probably could, but I can't do both.
Your knack is wide open right now, isn't it?
Oh, blazing blood running down out of my nose.
Not yet.
I'm
not
struggling.
Yet. You rolled a 6. I can't hurt you yet. But I'll tell you what is happening, right? Now you have the special ability pry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can hear it.
Mm.
Nobody else can hear it, but you can hear it like not quite what you would expect coming out of like a 3.5 foot tall, like tatterdemalion child. Instead, like deep, rich, resonant, sonorous, right? Like, we greet you under the Accords, cousin. This is not becoming for us. We can deal as soldiers here.
I think Nestor nods and drops the ward.
Now, you guys watch this happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what it look. What does it look like? Does he just kind of lean back?
I think like what is the
symbol?
What is the sign of like your knack making, knackery in the world? Like, is there light? Is there like a shimmer in the air?
It's not light. I think I like invoking static more. So Nestor's got pretty long curly hair and it's almost straight up.
Nice.
It's
your Van de Graaff generator.
Yeah. It's you all can see the tension release. And honestly, if you touched Nestor right now, it's the same kind of static electricity. You always get that psst. But as he releases it, you can see like my hair mostly come down and the tension leave. And that's really as much as how you know. I think though, the other thing it might do with light is it might polarize the light that goes through it, which most of the time you can't really tell. But there are circumstances with a lens or something that would be very obvious.
Right. So everybody like sees this kind of like background weirdness just suddenly drop, right? And all of a sudden, like there is a like that tatterdemalion like look, that kind of that subtle unreality of this thing reasserts itself as reality. Right? It is no longer that strange kind of two-dimensional adaptive camouflage look. Now it's a convincing illusion again. And it, still maintains that bearing and everything and inclines its head gently toward Nestor. And now everybody can hear like the deep, resonant, rich of its voice. It's like, that was embarrassing. We must never be rude. We will treat as cousins now, yes?
We shall now that you are treating with us as friends.
I never harmed any one of you. I could have harmed you. And he points at Godfrey.
I don't think he could. I'm kidding. It's a joke.
I don't doubt your ability. But the courts of winter are acting well outside the Accords following my friend here. And I am more than a little concerned as to the why and why I was not approached first.
And it pauses and draws back. Like, tell me about what the curriculum on fairies is at the Scholem.
It's almost a bluffing game.
Is it? Oh, I love that. Like, because it's looking at you and it's like you can see like the wheels turning, right? It's like, how much of this is bluster? How much does it know? Do you think that, are you trying to put one over on your friends, or are you trying to put one over on it?
I don't think I'm putting one over on it. It knows that this is the game.
Sure.
But if it can, it's almost like wordplay. If it can catch me speechless or not responding fast enough or not responding like I deserve respect, I don't, and he can ruin me.
Does Tristan recognize this as a duel that is happening here?
I'm sure he does
Ooh,
because
nice.
he's done wordplay like this before. And so when Nestor's bravado went down, Tristan would have sheathed his sword, but if you are paying attention, you would have noticed that he pushed his scabbard further into his hand. So while he releases his blade, his other hand can pop it out really quickly if he needs to.
So, like, this is almost like footwork, right?
Yeah.
Are you impressed?
So
At the moment, I'm watching.
Watching.
I
Fair
mean,
enough.
this wordplay is the way he does it. He likes doing his duels anyway. I mean,
So I think for a while, Nestor's bonds is that he believes that Tristan has a bit of the knack in him himself, and that can be developed. And I think that I was counting on Tristan picking this up in case I faltered.
yeah.
Good. So I was looking at both your bonds actually because Nestor has Tristan for one of his bonds, and then Tristan has Nestor. Nestor lacks my flair and panache, but they will learn it in time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just wondering how that bond was developing, right? So from purely selfish reasons. So the little soldier of the Winter Court, as we have dubbed him, right, has drawn himself up. He's like, I wasn't aware that I needed to seek permission to exist. Is this a new law? Should I reacquaint myself with your laws?
I must ask, do you think I'm a fool? Because you treat me as such, and such disrespect cannot go unnoticed.
Tharsis have something to
No.
Yeah.
Tharsis raises his hand.
I think it's cool.
It's behind his back, so it doesn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think like there's a moment of consideration. Is it like weighs both ways that it could handle this, because it could bluster, right? Like you're clearly using bluster as your instrument here, and it wonders if it should respond in kind. Instead, it decides to be obsequious, right? It's like, very well. We are on your territory. I will abide by your terms. Understand that when you find yourself in mine, that you will get exactly as you give.
I think Nestor does falter there a little bit. I think this is I pray I never walk into such a situation unprepared. Now let me ask, what brings you here? What brings you to observe my friends?
I'm on business. They
We all do business.
crossed my path. I was seen. I'm not easily seen. I was intrigued. I won't make the mistake again.
Seriously, these guys, boring. For your purposes going forward.
Noted, Master Knack. Do we part as friends?
Always, and in your service. And I give a polite bow.
I think it's not a smile. It's not even like a glint or a glimmer or anything, just perfectly placid, done. And it's gone.
As soon as I recognize that this thing is gone, I want the three of them to see something in Godfrey that they know is there. They know I hide, like aggressively hide, but they've been with me long enough. And there is nobody among this crew that I dump on more than Nestor. But everybody knows my paternal instinct with him, and I immediately come to him and just hand behind the back of your head, Nestor, and hand on your chest. for a half second until I realize that I'm doing it in front of everybody, and then I pull away. Are we good?
Apparently, we're boring.
You believe me, with the Fae, you want to be boring. That is a defense, not a insult.
Though if I may make a suggestion, since he said that he was under our rules, should we not have offered him food and drink as friends with no strings attached? That way he would be forced to do that if we were ever in his land.
That would have probably been wise. I will admit, my heart was going a little bit.
Well, it's a good thing we have an expert on these matters.
Yes.
I do not think this portends well. The court of the Winter Fae is not easily impressed, is not easy to get their attention.
So why would they be interested in us? You think the Britzolatos have them engaged somehow?
I don't know your situation. What was going on when they were spotted?
I never saw it until you made it appear in our gondola.
It was following me. It was following me, and if this is tied up to our errand, then we will find that string when we get to it. But we have some work. We've all gone out to get information. Let's collect it and let's move. And if we come across the winter, we'll bring our coats.
All right. So there's a head shed, right? Like everybody kind of puts our heads together. We share information. We know what we know, right? What kind of tack do we want to take here? I could see a couple, but I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, it occurs to me that assuming everything that we've heard is true, and the Britzolatos or some subset of them are behind this, they clearly wanted to do this. They knew there would be some manner of repercussion.
Oh, sure.
So they want to lure someone in, or they're trying to get our attention to have a conversation in some regard. And Tharsus's suggestion would be that we approach it just kind of like we sort of rock up and say, "Hi, I get the impression you wanted to see us."
We were called.
Yeah.
Do we, as we have this conversation and we start to connect the yarn, and I apologize. What was the name that Frankie gave Nestor?
Oh, Compay.
Compay.
No,
Is Compay? Do we know who Compay is? Is it tied?
Oh no,
Compay was me.
Yeah. And then
Serum.
Sarum. Yeah, I want to try to figure out put the yarn together here.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Sarum is Owen, a former teacher of Nestor's, prodigal disciple who went to go and work for the Britzolatos.
Okay, so that ties to what Tharsus found out, and it ties to what Tristane found out as well.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I take notes.
Yeah, that's good.
Good thing someone does.
I'm running a stream.
I have a very loud keyboard.
We all have our tasks here.
So, I love the idea of what you said, Brian. I love the bravado of that, which is you knew we would show up. Mm-hmm. What do we think is that of the different approaches? Which one do we think that is? It's not transport.
No, definitely not.
Be a social call.
It sounds like a social call unless we have another unspoken goal that could be deception.
I like social. If the three of you are okay with it, I love social. And maybe Sean, you can provide this. If this was our approach, if this was, you knew what you did, you knew that was phase one. Now we're here presenting phase two. Where would we approach? Where would this social occur?
So I think that would happen at the Britzolatos, like not like lair, because that's not taking in the majesty of what we're talking about. Like Apollo Britzolato, the head of the Britzolato crime family, tier 4 organization down in the Twist, right? Is like a massive gambling hall. Like it's if you can imagine like the Parthenon, but they have like blackjack and baccarat. Like that's what we're looking at here, right? It's all colonnades and gilt, and Apollo holds court there, and all of his underbosses come and report to him on how the criminal enterprise is working. But of course, Apollo's hands stay clean. He's a businessman with roots in the community.
For that matter, he might not even know about this operation yet. This may be somebody trying to do something to get his attention.
So,
somebody might be counting coup within his organization.
And for those who are not familiar with the Forge in the Dark, Blades in the Dark system, a lot of the things, organizations, devices are all built on tiers. Higher tier means that they're more powerful. Our organization starts off at tier 2. So this is
our house. Yeah.
Our house, excuse me. Our house is tier 2. So that means that this is an organization that's more powerful than our house.
We're swinging above our weight here.
Yeah,
That's where Forge in the Dark does best.
Apollo doesn't know me. So I'm wondering if we're going to go social, if we're going to approach them, who's lead? And I can help you. I can get anything you need to get where you need to be. But I'm trying to figure out if we're going to make this approach, if it's going to be a social approach, if we're going to get in front of them. Who's our lead? Who has the best chance of getting audience with Apollo?
Well, do we want to go to Apollo, or do we want to go? I think we may want to start before we get there.
Okay.
I think we may want to start at the lower level, like the person responsible.
Right.
Because, like I say, if this hasn't come to his attention yet, we may not want to even get involved in that level.
Right. So I was told that if we find Conpay, then Conpay would be able to help us.
And Sean, would we find them in that hall?
So Compay is one of the underbosses that runs one of the wards for Apollo, right? Not necessarily in Apollo's inner circle, but a capo, right? I think Compay is known and kind of an associate of the Blue Devils and a number of the less legitimate arms of Apollo's criminal empire. I think that might be like a vice den of some kind. We can determine what sort, like Dream Lily or a vice den of some kind.
All right, so we've decided our target, we've decided our approach.
And we have connections too, right? Yeah. So a social errand only requires that you have someone to get your foot in the door, and we have a name, which means that we can make the engagement roll and cut straight to the action.
And I was going to say, I have an idea of a potential thing that it could be. Okay. That would get us the foot in the door. Is if it's a fighting pit.
Oh,
Christine probably knows about it.
I like that. Yes. +1. All right.
All right. So, if possible, Sean, because I think this is a big part of Forge in the Dark, which is this engagement role. And real quick, what the engagement role does in a lot of Forge in the Dark systems is it condenses down a lot, right? So the 4 of us are very capable. We've decided on what our target is. We've decided how we're going to approach it. The 4 characters are far more capable of successfully pulling this off than the 4 players are. Right. So what's happening now is the characters have planned this all out, and they are going to go in, and we're going to figure out as players what our characters have already done and figured out. And what the engagement role does is condenses down all of that to where are we going to be in the middle of the action when we get started. So can we step through the add die, remove die of the engagement role?
Sure.
And then let's make it.
We can do that. So we always start with 1 die just for being retainers. We are canny, we are lucky, we are very good at what we do. Otherwise, House Corvetto would not retain us. So we always start with 1 die just for moxie. So from there, if we have a connection, if we've done legwork that prepares us for this errand, then we get another die. If we have a personal connection, or I get to put a paramour at risk. Nobody has paramour yet, but at some point the romance system kicks in, and interested parties can acquire a paramour. If I can put them in danger, then you can have another die. If the tier of the organization that you are targeting is higher than yours, you lose a die. If you are hitting them where they are strongest, or it does not take advantage of your planning, you lose another die. If there are a lot of factors, a lot of like dumb luck that has to all line up for you to be successful, you lose another die. Right now, because we've done legwork and because we are daring retainers, we have 2 dice, but we lose 1 because we are of a lower tier than the Brizzolato crime family, which means that we have an engagement roll of 1.
Do we think that basically walking up to the front door and saying, yo, what's up, is a particularly bold or daring approach?
I'm willing to say that's a properly daring approach.
Okay. I think that gets us a die.
It sure does.
Are you okay with that, Sean?
I'm absolutely fine with that. That sounds great. Because at that point,
Go ahead.
2 dice is better than 1.
Yep.
That's true.
I'm going to make the engagement roll. I'm going to roll 2 6-sided dice. We're going to take the better of the 2. We get to choose which of the 2 we're going to take. More than likely, the higher of the 2.
We hope. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sean, let's talk about what happens between a 1 and a 6. So, if our highest die is what happens?
So, on a 1 to 3, you begin in a desperate position. Something has already gone wrong, and we are reacting. We're on the back foot. If it's a 4 or 5, we begin in a risky position, which means that there is a possibility that things can go sideways, but we at least have a moment to react before it all goes to hell. For a 6, we begin in a controlled position, which means that we already probably, gotten ourselves into a good position. We have, a good lay of the land, and we are executing the plan. If we roll 2 6s, that's a critical, and we've already gotten ahead of like the first obstacle that I'm already imagining is standing in our way to, finding out what happened, why our safe deposit box at the Bank of Brass and Bone was pilfered. So
I'm ready to roll. And what's key is when I'm done with this roll, we're going to drop right into the action.
Okay.
So here we go.
All right. Nice.
Perfect.
Now, here's what's critical here is we're about to drop right into the action to start the errand. In episode 2, we're going to go to credits.
You monster.
So after credits is when we talk meta. And normally I try to keep this short. It might run long because I have a lot to talk about. I'm going to get the obvious out of the way. This was fantastic. I'm a little angry because I have never taken full advantage of pre-errand the way you did, Sean.
Yeah, free play.
Yeah, I don't think I leaned into free play as a GM as much as you did. And I'm now being on the player side of this, realized that was a huge mistake. And it's going to change how I run Forge in the Dark going forward, because this worked. This just worked, especially early on where we're establishing, we're figuring each other out, and you're figuring us out, and the world is being established. So hats off. I love, as a player, learning something new. And that is something I definitely picked up. We had an engaging 2 hours, and we haven't even done anything yet. And that's amazing.
We've had one action roll.
Yeah, just absolutely amazing. So Sean, I need your help here. So you asked us a lot of questions, but you didn't ask us what the name of the bartender was.
No.
What you did is you asked us very leading questions where you've established a truth and you allow us to almost finish the sentence. So, Craig, why does this bother you? Right? So it's not, Craig, does this bother you? Yeah. Craig, why does this bother you? And my first real brush up against this technique is via Cordova. And Jason does this all the time. And it's really where it's solidified in my head and where I picked it up. I don't know what this is called, and I love it. So what is this called when we do this as a GM?
So Jason Cordova calls it painting the scene.
Right.
He'll ask for a detail that, points you in a direction, right? Like, what about this particular palace room or whatever shows you that this is a house in decline or whatever. That's the paint the scene. When you do it, like, it's explicitly called out in both Blades in the Dark and in Court of Blades to ask leading questions,
right?
And that's what I called it before. Jason Cordova hung the moniker on it. Although I honestly have no idea when Jason Cordova started saying that, so maybe I'm talking out of my rear here.
Yeah, and just because my encounter with it being framed the way it is Jason's, it doesn't make Jason the first. I just think, like you say, he framed it and made it a thing. Right?
I've been doing it a long time. Don't get me wrong, but anyway. Because he's not here to defend his timeline. But yeah, paint the scene or leading questions to establish consensus and guide gently.
Yeah.
Builds cohesion and investment in a scene. Like you can have a beat that you're working toward, and then just slowly, gently, like it's not a framing of the scene, right? Because you can frame a scene to be like, this is the scene where you are betrayed, right? Tell me how the scene goes down, and that can work. That can work really, really well. But gently guiding, you will get input from your players that pushes it in a. I'm going to use the word consensual, but I don't think I mean it in the same way, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
A consensus building manner.
Yeah.
Where everybody starts to get on the same page, and it's almost like the 1, 2, 3, 4 before you hit it into a new musical number, right? It's giving the emotional count of the scene.
So one thing it feels like to me is that it's very much not a magician's force.
Right.
It's not that you're trying to lead the players to a specific location and make it sound like it's their idea. It's you're honestly trying to get them to help you build the world. And
there are 5 functioning brains at this table, and if we were relying on mine alone, then this game would not be nearly as fun. I promise.
I agree. And to build off of what you just said, Donald, it creates a context, right? So it gives us a framework, a ton of freedom within that framework, right? But it gives us a nice framework to work from. And I think it reduces the pressure that can happen. Because I love the idea of the quote unquote writer's table. But I also sympathize with people that say, that's too much pressure. There's people that don't like that and things. And what's nice about this is it's a weird in between. It's a weird place where we help. And there's also a nature of inviting, even though the question was asked of Brian, the way it's framed, all of us can jump in. Right. So if Brian's like, I
don't know, helmet fire. Somebody, I've had players toss it to somebody else at the table. Yeah. Well, you know about this too because of our bond together. Like, what have I told you in the past? And then it's not just forming consensus; it's forming like player to player consensus as well.
And I think it also helps that psychologically it gets the brain thinking about what is going to be good for my character to do versus what makes an interesting story for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I completely agree. And the only other thing I'll add on to it before I move on is that if you have people that are new, or you have people that have only played very traditional games, you may want to brief them a little bit to say that this is something that we like to do. And if you freeze, throw it to me, throw it to somebody else. And because you can create that moment.
Just real briefly. I've been stonewalled using that technique before. I've definitely like asked somebody and had them be like, you're the GM. Tell me about that thing.
Yeah.
And I have to, okay, well, understand that I've got an idea. I can tell you my idea. And if it sounds cool, I'll let you +1 it. Right. I'm just offering the same opportunity to you. Like, I will +1 your ideas because I'm super excited about them.
Yep.
So there's some give and take there.
Yeah. Very briefly, I'm still mad that I didn't realize how good free play is. So I just want to bring that up again. So Sean, one of the things that we like to do here on the stream after credits is stars and wishes. So stars is an opportunity for all 5 of us to talk about when was the star moment, not necessarily like a star player, though it could be a star player, but just a moment that really just clicked and made us just love it. And that, and then the wish is for us as a player, we're going to be playing again in the next episode or 2. What are we wishing for as players? May not be the same thing our characters are wishing for.
sure.
But that's our stars and wishes. Brian is more familiar with it than anybody. So maybe we can start with Brian, stars and wishes.
Sure. I mean, I enjoyed this thing from beginning to end. What I'll say my star moment was, though, was Nestor's meeting with Frankie, and just sort of just like, sit down, boom, sits down. He just the whole way that played out was absolutely perfect. I loved every minute of it. And as far as wishes go, I don't think it's too much to say that obviously Tharsis thinks of himself as a very sleek and dangerous individual, and I'm hoping he may have a chance to prove it without getting himself killed along the way.
Well, the second part I can't.
Well,
say.
sure.
Dice,
I mean, that's what dice are for.
But I will give everybody an opportunity. Everybody who is a badass is going to get an opportunity to prove it.
Excellent.
Sean, who do you want stars and wishes from next?
Donald, tell me your stars and wishes.
Sure. So, kind of leaning toward on what Craig said. I think my star was the free play, and the one that really stood out for me was the Fae, and just kind of how we built that. Fae was built very organically.
Yeah.
It wasn't a here you go. It's a sprite. It's a leprechaun. It's a blah. It's a thing, and helped me build this and almost sculpt it out of virtual clay type of thing. And how it's like, okay, everyone kind of sees it in their mind as it all coalesces together. Then as far as my wishes, I like intertwined things. When we were discussing the whole thing about the knack, the first thing in Tristan's head is, okay, we know they have a knack that's probably involved because it's a powerful knack, because otherwise why does Owen care? Is that knack strong enough to be able to grab someone from the Winter Court, and it's kind of helping to hold that person, go do this stuff for us, and and just to kind of see what watch the bundle of yarn intertwine amongst itself.
You're hoping I stick the landing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will try and knot things up tightly.
Who's next, Sean?
Craig, tell me your stars and wishes.
So stars was the moment on the street when I finally pieced together what you were doing and what this thing was. But the star became Nathan's reaction to the boat scene. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me to watch a player not game the results. It was an opportunity for me to watch a player go, this is where we are. This is who my character is. This is what I would do if I was this character. And how it plays out is how it plays out. But I'm not going to just find the perfect way to roll a nat 20 in this type of a situation. So Nathan, hats off. I really enjoyed the way you handled all of that. And I will build off of what Donald said, just the organic building of what Fae are and the presence of the Fae. People that watch this stream a lot know I've said this a few times. I had no idea who Godfrey was until we sat down and went live. I had a very rough framework around it, but I'm becoming more and more of the church of I'm going to put on his skin and see what happens and see who they are. And for me, when we were talking in the green room of the Discord for the last several weeks, like I had built up in my head this dismissive nature that Godfrey would have with Nestor. That Nestor is this young, if you even look at my bonds, right? That very dismissive, but in play, this paternal instinct just emerged from Godfrey. So I think there's two things I have wishes for. I want to explore the relationship between Godfrey and Nestor more, because I think it's very complicated and extremely interesting. And it was built off of by me sending you to Frankie and the way you interacted with Frankie. I loved when I said, I didn't know that about Frankie. And so now there's a whole nother layer, right? Like, I think what you and I have, Nathan, could be very, very interesting. But my top wish, my apex wish is I want to see the twins working together. I want to see what that dynamic is. I want to see what that relationship is as the oldest of four and having many brothers. It's super complicated, and I can't wait to see it in play.
I will put your backs against the wall, and we will see how you.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great. Nathan, finish us off, man.
So I have 2 stars. Number 1, Sean and Craig, you all built Frankie in a way that I was interacting with a person. I was not interacting with a piece of story or anything like that. I was how Nestor would respond to this person was automatic. It was not a kind of planned thing. It was just that's what's going to happen because of the way you all built her. And it you'll kind of bounce back and forth on it in a way that really just cemented that in my head. The other thing was Donald, your sword fight interrogation.
So good.
Oh my gosh.
That's bravo.
Loved it. It took me to, I don't know if you ever played the old Monkey Island games.
Nice.
Yes. But it took me there immediately. And I just absolutely, I adored it. It was so well done. Every step of it from I'm free, immediately jumping in, absolutely wonderful.
And it was just real quick now, Nathan, it was a perfect example of GM and player collaboration too, right? Yeah. Because Sean built off of Donald, built off of Sean, and we saw it happen in real time. It was a perfect example. Yeah.
Now I was kind of in the same place Craig was. I want to see that brother relationship as someone with a big family myself. That's going to be an interesting one-on-one. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm also very curious how, since that fairy was a symptom, what we're looking at from the Fae in the long run. Yeah. And I'm really excited to see that.
You guys have handed me so much awesome stuff.
That's really our number one job, is to give you fun toys to play with.
Exactly. Yeah. Usually I collect 6 or 7 knives in the course of a session. I think this might be a record for how many knives have been handed to me. I am just a walking Ginsu factory. Oh, it's great. I can't wait.
So Sean, you're not free of this. I need stars and wishes from you as well.
No, I mean, I can't help it +1 literally every bit of that. I loved every moment of characterization that showed up. If you guys continue to bring it like this, this is gonzo. This is so good. I loved that every moment that we had I have the bonds open on my screen here, and I was ticking every single one of them as they came up. So one of the ways that you get experience in this game is by playing to your bonds, by playing to your heritage or your background, and like there is no way that you will ever miss that point of experience if you continue to play like this. And honestly, like there are ones in there that that I can see the through line for the story that we're building together. And every single one of your stars, or your wishes rather, like the way they dovetail into somebody else's bond with your character is just unreal. Like, so for each of you, have a star. I call them roses and thorns when I play at home, because somebody's going to throw something. Roses and spears. That's what I call it. Sorry, roses and thorns is somebody was like, "You mean roses and thorns, right?" I'm like, "No, roses and spears. Throw something at me." But yeah, seeing the through line that you're already building is amazing. My wish is that you continue to give me. I'm sorry, one more star. We had one action roll tonight, right? Nathan, take an extra star because you went desperate.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There was a moment where you could have played it safe, but I don't know if you've read very, very closely like the player agenda, but like the willingness to play your character hard, right? Because we have stress and we have flashbacks and we have all these very powerful tools. Like there's no reason to be afraid of intrigue and danger, and you nailed it, man. Yeah. Like we had one action roll, and you were asking me, "Get a lady's favor. Can you go ahead and put out an extra consequence, and can you make my position desperate?" Yeah. I would like to play this game as hard as possible.
If you only get one roll, you got to make it count.
That's it. Yeah, and I think, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, Sean, but like when I first started playing Forged in the Dark games, I was very focused on position, right? Because position seems like the real thing you need to jockey and like minimize the amount of danger. And it's that instinct we have as players. Yeah. But I realized that anything I can do to increase the effect is really, that's where the juice is. And that's where
money's made. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. Well, go ahead, Sean.
My wish Please. Is that we see ways to get our characters in trouble. And we continue to, every time we see that, we don't turn away from it.
Yeah.
Play hard. Make me, give you consequences so that you can resist them.
Yep.
You can show how clever and how prepared and how just above the other retainers in the world you are. If you do that for me, it's going to be awesome.
You've got the right table, my friend. You've got the right table. All right. So quick, bottom left corner of your screen right now. That's the website for a coupleofdrakes.com. You can go there. You can get a copy of this game. This is a game that's on a very short list of mine, which is games that you can buy, never play, and it will make you better at running and playing games. And that's a very, very short list. You're going to learn a lot just by reading this book. You will get a lot more if you play it and run it. But you can go to a coupleofdrakes.com and you can check that out. We have got many more episodes to come, so make sure you follow, subscribe, the whole freaking thing. Brian, if I wanted to listen to a podcast that was dedicated to the history of mechanics and board games, where would I go?
You keep asking me this question. I wish you'd write down the answer all those times. It's ascentofboardgames.com. It's a monthly podcast about how board games evolved into the way they are.
One of my favorites. And if I was interested in kind of a pseudo dark, expanse-esque, really stylistic podcast that kind of like put me out there as kind of a blue collar futuristic story, where would I go, Sean?
You put me on the spot, Craig, but if you wanted, you could check out Dead Belt, True Tales of the Gasping Frontier. That's a podcast where I drawl into a microphone for about 20 minutes at a time.
It's really good. And Nathan is my witness. The game that's behind that podcast is absolutely phenomenal as well.
Another thing you can get at a coupleofdrakes.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't buy all their stuff. It's all real good.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. All right. Love you, mean it. Thanks so much, guys.
Right.
Howdy, friends. Thank you for watching. All our content is archived and organized in playlists on the Third Floor Wars YouTube channel. Check it out. And if you could like, follow, subscribe, and even set your notifications to this channel on YouTube and Twitch, we'd appreciate it, and it'll make sure that you catch all of our content. I talk with creators, designers, and experts across the gaming landscape in every episode of our podcast, Tabletop Talk. Open up your favorite podcatcher and search for Tabletop Talk from Third Floor Wars. Support your creators. They make the content you love, and it's your support that makes it happen. If you want to help us, go to Third Floor Wars on patreon.com, and you can help us for as little as $1 a month. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Take care.